What's up guys, Raimi here with So Yeah Quilting. I know it's been a while since you've seen me, but I'm very excited to be doing this tutorial with you. Now this quilt is huge. I love how you can see all of the different prints in each block. They're larger, that has a greater ability to use large focal print fabrics that we feature in our Vegas strips. Now, we used a Vegas strip for this quilt. You're welcome to use yardage as well, but this has so much versatility for all of the Vegas strips that we offer. Now I'm going to do a couple variations of this block. Let's get started. Now the two Vegas strips we're going to be featuring are Market Street and our Cream on Cream collection. Now these go great together, but of course you can use any Vegas strip of your choosing. We just restocked all of our Vegas strips, so make sure to check it out in the description below. Now let's get to the pattern. So all of the cutting instructions are down in the pattern in the description below. We're gonna get right to sewing, that way we can show you the technique of this block. We are going to start with our C1 and our A1 squares. For our C1 square, we're going to take it and turn it so that the right side is facing down, and we're going to mark a diagonal line across it. So yeah, pen. Now that we have it marked, all we're gonna do is put it right sides together with our A1 square. This is your personal preference whether you want to pin it or not. I'm not going to, but you're welcome to pin, wonder clip, whatever you're most comfortable with. But what we're going to do is we're going to take our square here and we are going to sew a 1/4 inch down both sides of that line. So you're gonna measure that 1/4 inch off the line, flip it around, measure a 1/4 inch off the other side. I'll meet you back here. Now we have our first side done, we're gonna flip it over and do the other side. Perfect, our half square triangles are almost done. Now all we're gonna do is we're going to cut right in between both of those seams, and then we're gonna trim down our blocks to 6 inches. We've got our half square triangles, make sure to press them out before trimming them. Your block should be just about at 6 inches, but just make sure that you square everything up. Now you're going to repeat this one more time so that you have 4 half square triangles for your block. I'm gonna set these aside and start working on our 4 patch. Our 4 patch is super simple. All we're going to be doing is sewing 2 of our A2 squares and 2 of our C2 squares together in a 4 patch, just like that. You want to alternate them, that way you get that checkerboard look. Now I'm going to go ahead and press these out, that way I can sew them together. As you know, I always like to make sure that my seam is going to line up for that perfect point. So I line that up together first and just do a couple of stitches across that to make sure we get that point right. There we go, got that perfect point. Now you can put it back and sew down the entire edge. Now I'm going to show you a little trick on how to get that point there to really lay flat on your quilt. What you're going to do, kind of press open that middle seam there on the back side and just take out that final stitch. Now this isn't going to ruin anything in your quilt because it is behind both of your seams. Got it. Okay, now you can see it makes that tiny little 4 patch there, and we're just going to go ahead and press that out. I'll show you when it's pressed. Now you can do this on any 4 patch, and it really just helps your point lay a lot flatter, helps your long armor out a little bit, so there's your trick for today. Now I'm going to go ahead and make sure this is squared up to 6 inches, and then we're going to start putting together our full block. To construct our block, we're going to need 4 of our half square triangles, 4 of our 4 patches, and 1 of our C1 square. Now let's get started putting together our block. We're going to take a 4 patch, our half square triangle, and another 4 patch here. Now you can see it's starting to make that little arrow here, the half arrow. Then we're going to take another half square triangle, again making another one of those half arrows, our C1 square in the center, another half square triangle here, our 4 patch, half square triangle, making that half arrow, and another 4-patch, completing our design. Now, we talked about a different variation here, and that is what's happening in this block. As you can see, our C1 block is what is in the center. For the quilt behind me, we actually used an A1 block so that this is all solid. You can see the difference here using the C1 block, gives it a little bit of a mix-up, separates it a little bit. This is up to your personal preference. You have fabric for both in your Vegas strips, so it's up to you. Now that we have our block all laid out, I'm gonna go ahead and sew it together. I'm gonna start in rows, so I'm gonna start from the top, middle, bottom, and then we'll sew our rows together. Now that our final row is done, we're gonna go ahead and attach them together. Make sure to line up your points, that way you get that perfect little arrow. And just like that, our roundabout quilt block is done. Now, I want to show you something. In your Vegas strip, you're going to get lots of different prints. And so this is actually what our quilt is going to start looking like. Both prints from the same collection, it gives it that pop and really individualizes the blocks. In this quilt behind me, you can see they all kind of blend together because we used those background prints for our center stars. One thing I also want to point out, as you can see, I mentioned earlier, we use the center block of our collection that's the same as the background. On this quilt on the wall here, we use the same print that's in the star. So in our case, it would have been that cream on cream. You can see the difference in the blocks. This is all up to personal preference and depends on what you want to do. I think it looks fantastic either way. And I also think you could do both in your quilt if you wanted to alternate the blocks. Now, the last thing I want to mention is the scrappy border on this quilt. Now, because we use such a neutral print in this, it gives it that softer feel down the edges. With this quilt that we're doing now, it is really gonna pop and add a ton more color into our quilt and really just finish it off. So don't forget that step and it'll tie everything all together. Now, I just want to thank you again for joining me for the Roundabout Quilt. Again, I'm Raimi with Sew Ya Quilting, teaching you how to sew like a pro, and we'll see you next time.